Hello, my name is Rob Jagelewski, the Parish Historian of St. Stanislaus Parish, and I welcome you to a virtual tour of the Shrine Church of St. Stanislaus. The community of St. Stanislaus was founded in 1873. The first priest to ever minister to our people was from St. Adalbert's in Berea. That was Father Victor Zarechny. Later on, our community moved their services from St. Mary's of the Flats in downtown Cleveland to St. Joe's on Woodland Avenue, and we were ministered by Father Wolfgang Janietz, OFM, a Franciscan who was stationed there. The land that St. Stanislaus Church sits on right now used to be a potato farm. It belonged to a farmer named Ashbel Morgan, who many of you may remember owned all this land, and Morgana Park was named after him. He sold 13 lots to our parish to build this church, and Father Anton Kolashevsky, who was the pastor at the time, built this magnificent structure behind me. The man who built this church was Father Anton Kolashevsky. He came here as pastor of St. Stanislaus Church, and he would go to the steel mills and on payday and get the contribution for the building of this church from his parishioners who worked at the steel mill. Father Kolashevsky would go there at the end of the shift and get the contribution before the steel workers went to the saloons of their favorite choice. We used to have two bell steeples in front of the church. They were over 230 feet high. In fact, you could see them from downtown Cleveland at the Terminal Tower. And when the immigrants would come in on the trains from New York State, many of them did not know English, so all they could say was St. Stanislaus, and people would take them outside the Terminal Tower and show them the steeples. In 1909, we had a tornado in the neighborhood that took out the back half of the church, including those two steeples. We have two bells in the east tower. One weighs 5,000 pounds, one weighs 2,500 pounds. Those bells were blown out of the tower into the schoolyard. They were eventually recast. The organ was taken out, it was destroyed. The stained glass window that was in the choir loft was totally destroyed. The only things remaining standing in the back of the church were the cross beams which hold the ceiling up. In the back of the church we have a little shrine to our former pastor, Father William Gulas, OFM, who was murdered by another Franciscan in 2002. This man, Brother Dan Montgomery, was told he was not going to fit in with the Franciscans. Something happened. He shot Father William in the priest's house and tried covering up the crime by burning the rectory down. This is a picture of Father William holding a monstrance during one of the Corpus Christi processions. This is also part of the shrine to Father William Gulas. This is the rope that Father William had on his Franciscan habit. All Franciscans wear this rope. It has 3 knots on it for poverty, chastity, and obedience, which are the 3 vows that they take. Here in the vestibule is the statue of the Good Shepherd. This statue was originally on top of the canopy, which was over our pulpit in the interior of the church. The canopy on the pulpit was so high that it was higher than the molding underneath the mural in the interior of the church that was close to the ceiling. The only other canopy I know of now that exists in the city of Cleveland is at St. Stephen's Church on the west side of Cleveland. The window in the choir loft is the St. Stanislaus window. This window originally was in the east transept of the church. When the tornado hit in 1909, the window that was in back of me was totally destroyed. The window in the west transept was totally destroyed. So they took this window out of the east transept and put it here. This depicts St. Stanislaus raising a man from the dead so that he could testify for him in a land deal in the Diocese of Krakow. This is the nave of St. Stanislaus Church. On one side we have female statues because when the church was built, the men sat here and the women sat on the other side. Above this is the ceiling of the church, not the roof. Between the ceiling and the roof is 100 more feet. This room is one of the clerestory rooms above the church along the side aisles. These are the interior windows of the church. Most Gothic churches had these to allow in more light. There's nothing here now, basically it's storage, and away we get to the light bulbs that are in the walls to change them. So this is the view from the clerestory window looking down on the main aisle of the church. In the clerestory are the massive wood beams that hold up the walls of the church. Now, the cathedral like Notre Dame in Paris, you had outside flying buttresses that held the walls up. Here in most churches in the United States, we have interior, what you would call flying buttresses. There's a trapdoor here and one up there, and this was where the rope came down to ring the bells when they were not electrified. My father remembers, as a young boy serving Mass here, he would come here and ring the bells, and he'd pull on the rope, and the rope would take him back up, and then he'd come down with the rope. In the shrine area of our church, which is in the east transept, we have the Tomb of Mary. This is more of an Orthodox type of exhibit. We celebrate as Catholics the Assumption of the Blessed Virgin Mary. The Orthodox celebrate the Dormition of Mary, which means she fell asleep. Our parishioners bring flowers here on the Feast of the Assumption, August 15th, and they're blessed here by the priest. We had Franciscan priests ministering to us for over 100 years, and this represents their contribution. On this altar we have St. Francis of Assisi, St. Anthony of Padua, St. Dominic, St. Joseph, and St. Clare of Assisi. In the tabernacle on this altar we have a reliquary which hosts the relics of St. Francis, St. Anthony, and St. Clare. Here we have a reliquary of our patron saint, St. Stanislaus, Bishop and Martyr. This was given to us by then Cardinal Karol Wojtyła, who visited our parish in September of 1969. He gave us this relic of St. Stanislaus to thank us for the work we did for the community of Poland before, during, and after World War II. We have 3 Marian icons in this area as well. The one here is Our Lady of Ostra-Brama, which is Lithuanian. The one in the middle is Our Lady of Częstochowa, the Queen of Poland. And the one on the right is Our Lady of Guadalupe, or Our Lady of the Americas. Here we have an altar dedicated to Pope John Paul II. On it we have an icon that was crafted in Poland by a Polish artist. It has John Paul II and St. Stanislaus side by side. When our parishioners went to Poland and brought this back from Poland, St. Stanislaus had a halo. John Paul II did not have a halo yet. He was not canonized. But the artist gave us the halo, taught us how to put that on John Paul in the event of his canonization. So now John Paul has his halo as well. Here we have a box that contains 2 relics of Pope St. John Paul II. The first is a mitre which he wore when he was Archbishop of Krakow. The second is a relic of Pope John Paul II, which was given to us by Cardinal Dziwisz. This has a small piece of the cassock that John Paul was wearing when he was shot in Vatican Square in 1981. One of our most infamous parishioners was Leon Czolgosz. He was the man who shot President William McKinley. He came up here with his brothers to work in the steel mills. They got involved in union activity and were fired. At that time, there were no weekly envelope collections, so the pastors had to visit each parishioner face to face and get a contribution. Our pastor at that time went to visit him, and he told the pastor he was not a Catholic anymore, he was an anarchist. Weeks later, he goes to Buffalo and he shoots President William McKinley. Theodore Roosevelt succeeded him. Theodore was his vice president. This is our newest shrine. This is the Divine Mercy Shrine. It resides in the west transept of the church. It's in the process of being completed. We will have 3 paintings where the black areas are. The middle one will be the Divine Mercy. On one side will be Sister Faustina, and on the other side will be John Paul II. Way up on top is a steeple, and this is a recreation of the steeple that existed on the Cathedral of Notre Dame that fell in the fire. This was constructed before the fire, so that is way before that. Thank you for coming on a virtual tour of the Shrine Church of St. Stanislaus.